1 Samuel chapter 1. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah the son of Jeroham the son of Eli, the son of Tohu the son of Zoph an Ephrathite. He had 2 wives, the name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah, and Peninnah had children. But Hannah had no children. This man went up out of his city yearly to bow down and to sacrifice to the exists of armies in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the serving leaders of the exists, were there. When the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But to Hannah he gave a worthy portion, because he loved Hannah, but he exists had shut up her womb. Her adversary also provoked her sore to make her fret, because he exists had shut up her womb, as he did so year by year. When she went up to the house of he exists, so she provoked her, therefore she wept, and did not eat. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why weep you, and why eat you not, and why is your inner thinking center grieved? Am not I better to you than 10 sons? So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the serving leader sat upon a seat by a post of the set-apart house of he exists. She was in bitterness of life breath, and prayed to he exists, and wept sore. She vowed a vow and said, O he exists of armies, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your handmaid, and remember me, and not forget your handmaid, but will give to your handmaid a man-child, then I will give him to he exists all the days of his life, and there will no razor come upon his head. It happened as she continued praying before he exists that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spoke in her inner thinking center, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. Eli said to her, How long will you be drunken? Put away your wine from you. Hannah answered and said, No, my master authority, I am a woman of a sorrowful life breath. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my life breath before he exists. Count not your handmaid for a daughter of worthlessness, because out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken until now. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the supreme authority, mighty creator of Israel, grant you your petition that you have asked of him. She said, Let your handmaid find favor in your sight. So the woman went her travel path and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. They rose up in the morning early and bowed down before he exists, and returned and came to their house to Ramah, and Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and he exists remembered her. It happened when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bore a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him if he exists. The man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to he exists the yearly sacrifice, and his vow. But Hannah went not up, because she said to her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before he exists, and there abide forever. Elkanah her husband said to her, Do what seems you good, tarry until you have weaned him, only he exists establish his word. So the woman abode, and gave her son suck until she weaned him. When she had weaned him, she took him up with her with 3 bullocks, and 1 ephah of flour, and a bottle of wine, and brought him to the house of he exists in Shiloh, and the child was young. They killed a bullock and brought the child to Eli. She said, O my master authority, as your life breath lives, my master authority, I am the woman that stood by you here praying to he exists. For this child I prayed, and he exists has given me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to he exists. As long as he lives he will be lent to he exists. And he bowed down, he exists there. (1 Samuel chapter 2). Hannah prayed and said, My inner thinking center rejoices in he exists. My horn is exalted in he exists. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies, because I rejoice in your rescue. There is none set apart as he exists, because there is none beside you, neither is there any rock like our supreme authority, mighty creator. Talk no more so exceeding proudly, let not arrogance come out of your mouth, because he exists as a supreme authority, mighty creator of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired out themselves for bread, and they that were hungry ceased, so that the barren has borne 7, and she that has many children is waxed feeble. He exists kills and makes alive, he brings down to the grave and brings up. He exists makes poor and makes rich, he brings low and lifts up. He raises up the poor out of the dust, and lifts up the beggar from the dunghill to set them among princes and to make them inherit the throne of honor, because the pillars of the land are he exists, and he has set the world upon them. He will keep the feet of his set-apart ones, and the wicked will be silent in darkness, because by strength will no man prevail. The adversaries of he exists will be broken to pieces. Out of heaven will he thunder upon them. He exists will judge the ends of the land, and he will give strength to his king ruler, and exalt the horn of his anointed. Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister to he exists before Eli the serving leader. Now the sons of Eli were sons of worthlessness, they knew not he exists. The serving leader's custom with the people group was that when any man offered sacrifice, the serving leader's servant worker came, while the flesh was in seething, with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand. He struck it into the pan, or kettle, or cauldron, or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up the serving leader took for himself. So they did in Shiloh to all the Israelites that came there. Also before they burned the fat, the serving leader's servant worker came and said to the man that sacrificed, give flesh to roast for the serving leader, because he will not have boiled flesh of you, but raw. If any man said to him, let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as your life breath desires, then he would answer, no, but you will give it me now, and if not, I will take it by force. Therefore the wrong of the young men was very great before he exists, because men abhorred the offering of he exists. But Samuel ministered before he exists, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Moreover his mother made him a little coat, and brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife, and said, he exists, give you seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to he exists. And they went to their own home. He exists visited Hannah, so that she conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters, and the child Samuel grew before he exists. Now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did to all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. He said to them, why do you such things? Because I hear of your evil dealings by all this people group. No, my sons, because it is no good to report that I hear you make he exists people group to transgress. If one man wrong against another, the judge will judge him. But if a man wrong against he exists, who will entreat for him? Notwithstanding they listened not to the voice of their father, because he exists would slay them. The child Samuel grew on, and was in favor both with he exists and also with men. There came a man of the supreme authority, mighty creator, to Eli, and said to him, thus says he exists, did I plainly appear to the house of your father, when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? Did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my serving leader, to offer upon my altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give to the house of your father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Therefore kick you at my sacrifice, and at my offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honor your sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people group. Therefore he exists, supreme authority, mighty creator of Israel, says, I said indeed that your house and the house of your father should walk before me forever. But now he exists, says, be it far from me, because them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me will be lightly esteemed. Look, the days come that I will cut off your arm, and the arm of your father's house, that there will not be an old man in your house. You will see an adversary in my habitation, and all the wealth which the supreme authority, mighty creator, will give Israel, and there will not be an old man in your house forever. The man of yours whom I will not cut off from my altar will be to consume your eyes, and to grieve your inner thinking center, and all the increase of your house will die in the flower of their age. This will be the sign to you that will come upon your 2 sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, and one day they will die both of them. I will raise me up a faithful serving leader, that will do according to that which is in my inner thinking center, and in my life breath, and I will build him a sure house, and he will walk before my anointed forever. It will come to pass that everyone that is left in your house will come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and will say, put me, I pray you, into one of the serving leader's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread. 1 Samuel chapter 3. The child Samuel ministered to he exists before Eli, and the word of he exists was precious. In those days there was no open vision. It happened at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. before the lamp of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator went out in the set-apart house of He Exists, where the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep. He Exists called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. He ran to Eli and said, Here am I. Because you called me, and he said, I called not, lie down again, and he went and lay down. He Exists called yet again Samuel, and Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, Here am I. Because you called me, and he answered, I called not, my son, lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know He Exists, neither was the word of He Exists yet revealed to him. He Exists called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I. Because you called me, and Eli perceived that He Exists had called the child. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, Go lie down, and it will be if he call you that you will say, Speak, He Exists, because your servant worker hears. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. He Exists came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, because your servant worker hears. He Exists said to Samuel, Look, I will do a thing in Israel at which both the ears of everyone that hears it will tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin I will also make an end, because I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the wrongdoing which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. Therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli, that the wrongdoing of Eli's house will not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. Samuel lay until the morning, and opened the doors of the house of He Exists, and Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son, and he answered, Here am I. He said, What is the thing that He Exists has said to you? I pray you hide it not from me. The Supreme Authority Mighty Creator do so to you, and more also, if you hide anything from me of all the things that he said to you. Samuel told him every bit, and hid nothing from him, and he said, It is He Exists, let him do what seems him good. Samuel grew, and He Exists was with him, and let none of his words fall to the land. All Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be a speaker of He Exists. He Exists appeared again in Shiloh, because He Exists revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of He Exists. 1 Samuel chapter 4. The word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle, and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. The Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was struck before the Philistines, and they killed of the army in the field about 4,000 men. When the people group were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, Why has He Exists struck us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the binding agreement of He Exists out of Shiloh to us, that when it comes among us it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh that they might bring from there the ark of the binding agreement of He Exists of armies, which dwells between the cherubim, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the binding agreement of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator. When the ark of the binding agreement of He Exists came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the land rang again. When the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, What means the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of He Exists was come into the camp. The Philistines were afraid, because they said, The Supreme Authority Mighty Creator is come into the camp. And they said, Woe to us, because there has not been such a thing before. Woe to us, who will deliver us out of the hand of these mighty, Supreme Authority Mighty Creators? These are the Supreme Authority Mighty Creators that struck the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong, and conduct yourselves like men, O you Philistines, that you be not servant workers to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Conduct yourselves like men and fight. The Philistines fought, and Israel was struck, and they fled every man into his tent, and there was a very great slaughter, because there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. The ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. There ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes torn, and with land upon his head. When he came, luckily sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, because his inner thinking center trembled for the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator. And when the man came into the city, and told it all, the city cried out. When Ali heard the noise of the crying, he said, "What means the noise of this uproar?" And the man came in hastily and told Ali. Now Ali was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. The man said to Ali, "I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army." And he said, "What is there done, my son?" The messenger answered and said, "Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there has been also a great slaughter among the people group. And your 2 sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator is taken." It happened, when he made mention of the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck broke. And he died because he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. His daughter-in-law Phinehas' wife was with child near to be delivered, and when she heard the news that the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, because her pains came upon her. About the time of her death, the women that stood by her said to her, "Fear not, because you have borne a son." But she answered not, neither did she regard it. She named the child Ichabod, saying, "The honor is departed from Israel, because the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband." She said, "The honor is departed from Israel, because the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator is taken." 1 Samuel chapter 5. The Philistines took the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. When the Philistines took the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. When they of Ashdod arose early on the next day, look, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the land before the ark of He exists. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. When they arose early on the morning the next day, look, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the land before the ark of He exists. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold, only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore neither the serving leaders of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. But the hand of He exists was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and struck them with tumors, even Ashdod and the coasts thereof. When the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, "The ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel will not remain with us, because his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our Supreme Authority." They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines to them, and said, "What will we do with the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel?" And they answered, "Let the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel be carried about to Gath." And they carried the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel about there. It was so that after they had carried it about, the hand of He exists was against the city with a very great destruction, and he struck the men of the city, both small and great, and they had tumors in their hidden parts. Therefore they sent the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator to Ekron. And it happened, as the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, "They have brought about the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel to us, to slay us and our people group." So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines, and said, "Send away the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel, and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people group." Because there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city, the hand of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator was very heavy there. The men that died not were struck with the tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. 1 Samuel chapter 6. The ark of He who exists was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. The Philistines called for the serving leaders and the diviners, saying, "What will we do to the ark of He exists? Tell us, wherewith we will send it to his place." They said, "If you send away the ark of the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a wrong step offering, then you will be healed, and it will be known to you why his hand is not removed from you." Then said they, "What will be the wrong step offering which we will return to him?" They answered, 5 golden tumors, and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, because one plague was on you all, and on your lords. Therefore you will make images of your tumors, and images of your mice, that mar the land, and you will give honor to the Supreme Authority Mighty Creator of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten his hand from off you, and from off your supreme authorities, and from off your land. Therefore then do you harden your inner thinking center as the Egyptians, and Pharaoh hardened their inner thinking center when he had wrought wonderfully among them. Did they not let the people group go? And they departed. Now therefore make a new cart, and take 2 milch cows on which there has come no yoke, and tie the cows to the cart, and bring their calves home from them. Take the ark of he exists, and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold, which ye return him for wrong step offering in a coffer, by the side thereof, and send it away that it may go. See, if it go up by the travel path of his own coast to Bethshemesh, then he has done us this great evil, but if not, then we will know that it is not his hand that struck us, it was a chance that happened to us. The men did so, and took 2 milch cows, and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. They laid the ark of he exists upon the cart and the coffer with the mice of gold and the images of their tumors. The cows took the straight travel path to the travel path of Bethshemesh, and went along the highway lowing as they went, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them to the border of Bethshemesh. They of Bethshemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley, and they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark, and rejoiced to see it. The cart came into the field of Joshua Bethshemite, and stood there, for there was a great stone, and they cut the wood of the cart, and offered the cows a burnt offering to he exists. The Levites took down the ark of he exists, and the coffer that was with it, wherein the jewels of gold were, and put them on the great stone. And the men of Bethshemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrificed sacrifices the same day to he exists. When the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they returned to Ekron the same day. These are the golden tumors, which the Philistines returned for a wrong step, offering to he exists for Ashdod 1, for Gaza 1, for Askelon 1, for Gath 1, for Ekron. The golden mice according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines, belonging to the 5 lords, both of fenced cities and of country villages, even to the great stone of Abel whereon they set down the ark of he exists, which stone remains to this day in the field of Joshua the Bethshemite. He struck the men of Bethshemesh, because they had looked into the ark of he exists. Even he struck of the people 50,070 men, and the people lamented, because he exists had struck many of the people with a great slaughter. The men of Bethshemesh said, who is able to stand before this set apart he exists, supreme authority, mighty creator, and to whom will he go up from us? They sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kirjath-jearim, saying, the Philistines have brought again the ark of he exists, come you down and fetch it up to you. 1 Samuel chapter 7. The men of Kirjath-jearim came and fetched up the ark of he exists, and brought it into the house of Abinadab in the hill, and sanctified Eleazar his son, to keep the ark of he exists. It happened while the ark abode in Kirjath-jearim, that the time was long, because it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented after he exists. Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, if you do return to he exists with all your inner thinking center, then put away the strange, supreme authorities and Asheroth from among you, and prepare your inner thinking center to he exists, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the children of Israel did put away Baalim and Asheroth, and served he exists only. Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpeh, and I will pray for you to he exists. They gathered together to Mizpeh, and drew water, and poured it out before he exists, and fasted on that day, and said that we have did wrong against he exists. And Samuel judged the children of Israel in Mizpeh. When the Philistines heard that the children of Israel were gathered together to Mizpeh, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the children of Israel heard it, they were afraid of the Philistines. The children of Israel said to Samuel, cease not to cry to he exists, our supreme authority, mighty creator, for us, that he will save us out of the hand of the Philistines. Samuel took a sucking lamb and offered it for a burnt offering holy to he exists. And Samuel cried to he exists for Israel, and he exists heard him. As Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel, but he exists thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines, and discomfited them, and they were struck before Israel. The men of Israel went out of Mizpeh, and pursued the Philistines, and struck them until they came under Bethkar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it between Mizpeh and Shan, and called the name of it Ebenezer, saying, until here he exists has helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more into the coast of Israel. And the hand of Textus was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. The cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel from Ekron even to Gath, and the coasts thereof did Israel deliver out of the hands of the Philistines, and there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. He went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpeh, and judged Israel in all those places. His return was to Ramah, because there was his house, and there he judged Israel, and there he built an altar to Textus. 1 Samuel chapter 8. It happened when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. His sons walked not in his travel paths, but turned aside after gain, and took bribes, and perverted fair judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and came to Samuel to Ramah. They said to him, Look, you are old, and your sons walk not in your travel paths. Now make us a king ruler to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel, when they said, Give us a king ruler to judge us. And Samuel prayed to Textus. Textus said to Samuel, Listen to the voice of the people group in all that they say to you, because they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I will not reign over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, wherewith they have forsaken me, and served other supreme authorities, so do they also to you. Now therefore listen to their voice, however yet protest solemnly to them, and show them the manner of the king ruler that will reign over them. Samuel told all the words of Textus to the people group that asked of him a king ruler. He said, This will be the manner of the king ruler that will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariots. He will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50s, and will set them to till his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and instruments of his chariots. He will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. He will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your oliveyards, even the best of them, and give them to his servant workers. He will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers, and to his servant workers. He will take your men servants, and your maid servants, and your goodliest young men, and your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and you will be his servant workers. You will cry out in that day, because of your king ruler, which you will have chosen you, and Textus will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless the people group refused to listen to the voice of Samuel, and they said, No, but we will have a king ruler over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king ruler may judge us, and go out before us, and fight our battles. Samuel heard all the words of the people group, and he rehearsed them in the ears of Textus. Textus said to Samuel, Listen to their voice, and make them a king ruler. And Samuel said to the men of Israel, Go you every man to his city. 1 Samuel chapter 9. There was a man of Benjamin, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. He had a son, whose name was Saul, a choice young man, and a goodly, and there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person than he from his shoulders, and upward he was higher than any of a people group. The donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost, and Kish said to Saul his son, Take now one of the servant workers with you, and arise, go seek the donkeys. He passed through Mount Ephraim, and passed through the land of Shelisha, but they found them not. Then they passed through the land of Shalem, and there they were not, and he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they found them not. When they were come to the land of Zoph, Saul said to his servant worker that was with him, Come, and let us return, lest my father leave caring for the donkeys, and take thought for us. He said to him, Look now, there is in this city a man of the supreme authority, mighty creator, and he is an honorable man. All that he says comes surely to pass. Now let us go there, perhaps he can show us our travel path, that we will go. Then said Saul to his servant worker, But look, if we go, what will we bring the man? Because the bread is spent in our vessels, and there is not a present to bring to the man of the supreme authority, mighty creator. What have we? The servant worker answered Saul again and said, Look, I have here at hand the fourth part of a shekel of silver, that will I give to the man of the supreme authority, mighty creator, to tell us our travel path. Before a time in Israel when a man went to inquire of the supreme authority mighty creator, thus he spoke, Come, and let us go to the seer, because he that is now called a speaker was before a time called a seer. Then said Saul to his servant worker, Well said, come, let us go. So they went to the city, where the man of the supreme authority mighty creator was. As they went up the hill to the city, they found young maidens going out to draw water, and said to them, Is the seer here? They answered them, and said, He is. Look, he is before you, make haste now, because he came today to the city, because there is a sacrifice of the people group today in the high place. As soon as you come into the city, you will straightway find him before he go up to the high place to eat, because the people group will not eat until he come, because he does bless the sacrifice, and afterward they eat that to be bidden. Now therefore get you up, because about this time you will find him. They went up into the city, and when they were come into the city, look, Samuel came out against them for to go up to the high place. Now he exists had told Samuel in his ear a day before Saul came, saying, Tomorrow about this time I will send you a man out of the land of Benjamin, and you will anoint him to be captain over my people group Israel, that he may save my people group out of the hand of the Philistines, because I have looked upon my people group, because their cry has come to me. When Samuel saw Saul he exists, said to him, Look, the man whom I spoke to you of this same will reign over my people group. Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate, and said, Tell me, I pray you, where the seer's house is. Samuel answered Saul and said, I am the seer, go up before me to the high place, because you will eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your inner thinking center. As for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, set not your inner thinking center on them, because they are found, and on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and on all your father's house? Saul answered and said, Am not I a Benjamite of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Therefore then speak you so to me. Samuel took Saul and his servant worker, and brought them into the parlor, and made them sit in the chiefest place among them that were bidden, which were about 30 persons. Samuel said to the cook, Bring the portion which I gave you, of which I said to you, set it by you. The cook took up the shoulder, and that which was upon it, and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, Look, that which is left, set it before you, and eat, because to this time has it been kept for you, since I said I have invited the people. So Saul did eat with Samuel that day. When they were come down from the high place into the city, Samuel communed with Saul upon the top of the house. They arose early, and it happened about the spring of the day that Samuel called Saul to the top of the house, saying, Up, that I may send you away. And Saul arose, and they went out, both of them, he and Samuel, abroad. As they were going down to the end of the city, Samuel said to Saul, Bid the servant worker pass on before us. And he passed on. But stand you still a while, that I may show you the word of the supreme authority, mighty creator. 1 Samuel chapter 10. Then Samuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head, and kissed him, and said, Is it not because he exists has anointed you to be captain over his inheritance? When you are departed from me today, then you will find 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin at Zelzah, and they will say to you, The donkeys, which you went to seek, are found, and look, your father has left the care of the donkeys, and sorrows for you, saying, What will I do for my son? Then you will go on forward from there, and you will come to the plain of Tabor, and there will meet you 3 men going up to the supreme authority, mighty creator, to Bethel, one carrying 3 kids, and another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. They will salute you, and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you will receive of their hands. After that you will come to the hill of the supreme authority, mighty creator, where is the garrison of the Philistines, and it will come to pass when you are come there to the city, that you will meet a company of speakers coming down from the high place with a psaltery and a tabret and a pipe and a harp before them, and they will prophesy. The creative breath of he exists will come upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and will be turned into another man. Let it be, when these signs are come to you, that you do as occasion serve you, because the supreme authority, mighty creator, is with you. You will go down before me to Gilgal, and look, I will come down to you to offer burnt offerings, and to sacrifice sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days will you tarry, until I come to you and show you what you will do. It was so that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, the supreme authority, mighty creator, gave him another inner thinking center. And all those signs happened that day. When they came there to the hill, look, a company of speakers met him, and the creative breath of the supreme authority mighty Creator came upon him, and he prophesied among them. It happened when all that knew him before a time saw that look he prophesied among the speakers. Then the people group said one to another, what is this that has come to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the speakers? One of the same place answered and said, but who was their father? Therefore it became a proverb, is Saul also among the speakers? When he had made an end of prophesying, he came to the high place. Saul's uncle said to him and to his servant worker, whence you went? He said, to seek the donkeys. And when we saw that they were nowhere, we came to Samuel. Saul's uncle said, tell me, I pray you, what Samuel said to you. Saul said to his uncle, he told us plainly that the donkeys were found. But of the matter of the kingdom rule whereof Samuel spoke, he told him not. Samuel called the people group together to he exists to Mizpeh. He said to the children of Israel, thus says he exists, supreme authority, mighty Creator of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt, and delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all kingdoms, and of them that oppressed you. You have this day rejected your supreme authority, mighty Creator, who himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations, and you have said to him, no, but set a king ruler over us. Now therefore present yourselves before he exists, by your tribes and by your thousands. When Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near, the tribe of Benjamin was taken. When he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near, by their families, the family of Matri was taken, and Saul the son of Kish was taken, and when they sought him, he could not be found. Therefore they inquired if he exists further, if the man should yet come there. And he exists answered, look, he has hid himself among the stuff. They ran and fetched him from there, and when he stood among the people group, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders and upward. Samuel said to all the people group, see you him whom he exists has chosen, that there is none like him among all the people group. And all the people group shouted and said, the king ruler live. Then Samuel told the people group the manner of the kingdom rule, and wrote it in a book, and laid it up before he exists. And Samuel sent all the people group away, every man to his house. Saul also went home to Jibah, and there went with him a band of men whose inner thinking center the supreme authority mighty Creator had touched. But the children of worthlessness said, how will this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. 1 Samuel chapter 11. Then Nahash the Ammonite came up and encamped against Jabeshgilead, and all the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, make a binding agreement with us, and we will serve you. Nahash the Ammonite answered them, on this condition will I make a binding agreement with you, that I may thrust out all your right eyes, and lay it for a reproach upon all Israel. The elders of Jabesh said to him, give us 7 days respite, that we may send messengers to all the coasts of Israel, and then if there be no man to save us, we will come out to you. Then came the messengers to Jibah of Saul, and told the news in the ears of the people group, and all the people group lifted up their voices and wept. Look, Saul came after the herd out of the field, and Saul said, what ails the people that they weep? And they told him the tidings of the men of Jabesh. The creative breath of the supreme authority mighty Creator came upon Saul when he heard those tidings, and his anger was kindled greatly. He took a yoke of oxen and hewed them in pieces, and sent them throughout all the coasts of Israel by the hands of messengers, saying, whoever comes not forth after Saul and after Samuel, so will it be done to his oxen. And the fear of he exists fell on the people group, and they came out with one consent. When he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. They said to the messengers that came, thus will you say to the men of Jabeshgilead, tomorrow by that time the sun is hot, you will have help. And the messengers came and showed it to the men of Jabesh, and they were glad. Therefore the men of Jabesh said, tomorrow we will come out to you, and you will do with us all that seems good to you. It was so on the next day that Saul put the people group in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the host in the morning watch, and struck the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it happened that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together. The people group said to Samuel, who is he that said, will Saul reign over us? Bring the men, that we may put them to death. Saul said, there will not a man be put to death this day, because today he exists has worked rescue in Israel. Then said Samuel to the people group, "Come and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom rule there." All the people group went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king ruler before he exists in Gilgal, and there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before he exists, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. 1 Samuel chapter 12. Samuel said to all Israel, "Look, I have listened to your voice and all that you said to me, and have made a king ruler over you. Now look, the king ruler walks before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and look, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood to this day. Look, here I am witness against me before he exists, and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken, or whose donkey have I taken, or whom have I defrauded, whom have I oppressed, or of whose hand have I received any bribe to blind my eyes therewith? And I will restore it you." They said, "You have not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither have you taken anything of any man's hand." He said to them, "He exists, is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that you have not found anything in my hand." And they answered, "He is witness." Samuel said to the people group, "It is he exists that advanced Moses and Aaron, and that brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now therefore stand still, that I may reason with you before he exists of all the right acts of he exists, which he did to you and to your fathers. When Jacob was come into Egypt, and your fathers cried to he exists, then he exists sent Moses and Aaron, which brought forth your fathers out of Egypt, and made them dwell in this place. When they forgot he exists, their supreme authority, mighty Creator, he sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the host of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king ruler of Moab, and they fought against them. They cried to he exists, and said, "We have did wrong, because we have forsaken he exists, and have served Balaam and Asheroth. But now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve you." He exists sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Jephthah and Samuel, and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and you dwelt safe. When you saw that Nahash the king ruler of the children of Ammon came against you, you said to me, "No, but a king ruler will reign over us." When he exists, your supreme authority, mighty Creator, was your king ruler. Now therefore look, the king ruler whom you have chosen and whom you have desired, and look, he exists, has set a king ruler over you. If you will fear he exists, and serve him, and listen to his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of he exists, then will both you and also the king ruler that reigns over you continue following he exists, your supreme authority, mighty Creator. But if you will not listen to the voice of he exists, but rebel against the commandment of he exists, then will the hand of he exists be against you as it was against your fathers. Now therefore stand and see this great thing which he exists will do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call to he exists, and he will send thunder and rain, that you may perceive and see that your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of he exists, in asking you a king ruler. So Samuel called to he exists, and he exists sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people group greatly feared he exists. And Samuel, all the people group, said to Samuel, "Pray for your servant workers, to he exists, your supreme authority, mighty Creator, that we die not, because we have added to all our wrongs this evil to ask us a king ruler." Samuel said to the people group, "Fear not, you have done all this wickedness, yet turn not aside from following he exists, but serve he exists with all your inner thinking center. Turn you not aside, because then should you go after empty things which cannot profit nor deliver, because they are empty. He exists will not forsake his people group for his great name's sake, because it has pleased he exists to make you his people group. Moreover, as for me, the far be it from me that I should wrong against he exists in ceasing to pray for you. But I will teach you the good and the right travel path. Only fear he exists, and serve him in truth with all your inner thinking center, because consider how great things he has done for you. But if you will still do wickedly, you will be consumed, both you and your king ruler." (1 Samuel chapter 13). Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash, and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin, and the rest of the people group he sent every man to his tent. Jonathan struck the garrison of the Philistines, that was in Geba. And the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, Let the Hebrews hear. All Israel heard say that Saul had struck a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also was had an abomination with the Philistines. And the people group were called together after Saul to Gilgal. The Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people group as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash eastward from Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, because the people group were distressed, then the people group did hide themselves in caves and in thickets and in rocks and in high places and in pits. Some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people group followed him trembling. He tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people group were scattered from him. Saul said, Bring here a burnt offering to me and peace offerings, and he offered the burnt offering. It happened that as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, look, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. Samuel said, What have you done? And Saul said, Because I saw that the people group were scattered from me, and that you came not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. Therefore said I, The Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication. Do ye exists? I forced myself therefore, and offered a burnt offering. Samuel said to Saul, You have done foolishly, you have not kept the commandment of He exists, your supreme authority, mighty Creator, which He commanded you, because now would He exists have established your kingdom rule upon Israel forever. But now your kingdom rule will not continue. He exists has sought him a man after his own inner thinking center, and He exists has commanded him to be captain over his people group, because you have not kept that which He exists commanded you. Samuel arose and got him up from Gilgal to Geba of Benjamin, and Saul numbered the people group that were present with him about 600 men. Saul and Jonathan his son and the people group that were present with them abode in Geba of Benjamin. But the Philistines encamped in Michmash. The spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned to the travel path that leads to offer to the land of Shur. Another company turned the travel path to Bethhoron, and another company turned to the travel path of the border that looks to the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. Now there was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel, because the Philistines said, Lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his share, and his coulter and his axe and his mattock. Yet they had a file for the mattocks and for the coulters and for the forks and for the axes, and to sharpen the goads. So it happened in the day of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people group that were with Saul and Jonathan. But with Saul and with Jonathan his son was there found. The garrison of the Philistines went out to the passage of Michmash. 1 Samuel chapter 14. Now it happened upon a day that Jonathan the son of Saul said to the young man that bore his armor, Come, and let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side. But he told not his father. Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Geba under a pomegranate tree which is in Migron, and the people group that were with him were about 600 men. Ahiah the son of Ahitub of Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas the son of Elihu, exists serving leader in Shiloh wearing an ephod. And the people group knew not that Jonathan was gone between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over to the Philistines' garrison. There was a sharp rock on the one side and a sharp rock on the other side, and the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other Seneh. The forefront of the one was situated northward over against Michmash, and the other southward over against Geba. Jonathan said to the young man that bore his armor, Come and let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that he exists will work for us, because there is no restraint to he exists to save, by many, or by few. His armor-bearer said to him, Do all that is in your inner thinking center. Turn you, look, I am with you according to your inner thinking center. Then said Jonathan, Look, we will pass over to these men, and we will discover ourselves to them. If they say thus to us, Tarry until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place, and will not go up to them. But if they say thus, Come up to us, then we will go up, because he exists has delivered them into our hand, and this will be a sign to us. both of them discovered themselves to the garrison of the Philistines, and the Philistines said, Look, the Hebrews come forth out of the holes where they had hid themselves. The men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor-bearer, and said, Come up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, Come up after me, because he exists has delivered them into the hand of Israel. Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor-bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer killed after him. That first slaughter, which Jonathan and his armor-bearer made, was about 20 men within as it were a half-acre of land, which a yoke of oxen might plow. There was trembling in the host in the field, and among all the people grouped the garrison and the spoilers, they also trembled. And the land quaked, so it was a very great trembling. The watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and look, the multitude melted away, and they went on beating down one another. Then said Saul to the people group that were with him, Number now, and see who is gone from us. And when they had numbered, look, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. Saul said to Ahiah, Bring here the ark of the supreme authority, mighty Creator. Because the ark of the supreme authority, mighty Creator, was at that time with the children of Israel. It happened, while Saul talked to the serving leader, that the noise that was in the host of the Philistines went on and increased. And Saul said to the serving leader, Withdraw your hand. Saul and all the people group that were with him assembled themselves, and they came to the battle, and look, every man's sword was against his fellow, and there was a very great confusion. Moreover, the Hebrews that were with the Philistines before that time, which went up with them into the camp from the country round about, even they also turned to be with the Israelites that were with Saul and Jonathan. Likewise all the men of Israel, which had hid themselves in Mount Ephraim, when they heard that the Philistines fled, even they also followed hard after them in the battle. So he exists saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over to Bethaven. The men of Israel were distressed that day, because Saul had adjured the people group, saying, Cursed be the man that eats any food until evening, that I may be avenged on my enemies. So none of the people group tasted any food. All they of the land came to a wood, and there was honey upon the ground. When the people group were come into the wood, look, the honey dropped, but no man put his hand to his mouth, because the people group feared the oath. But Jonathan heard not when his father charged the people group with the oath. Therefore he put forth the end of the rod that was in his hand, and dipped it in a honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened. Then answered one of the people group, and said, Your father strictly charged the people group with an oath, saying, Cursed be the man that eats any food this day. And the people group were faint. Then said Jonathan, My father has troubled the land. See, I pray you, how my eyes have been enlightened, because I tasted a little of this honey. How much more, if perhaps the people group had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies, which they found, because had there not been now a much greater slaughter among the Philistines. They struck the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon, and the people group were very faint. The people group flew upon the spoil, and took sheep and oxen and calves, and struck them on the ground, and the people group did eat them with the blood. Then they told Saul, saying, Look, the people group wrong against ye exists, in that they eat with the blood. And he said, You have transgressed. Roll a great stone to me this day. Saul said, Disperse yourselves among the people group, and say to them, Bring me here every man his ox, and every man his sheep, and strike them here, and eat, and wrong not against he exists in eating with the blood. And all the people group brought every man his ox with him that night, and struck them there. Saul built an altar to he exists. The same was the first altar that he built to he exists. Saul said, Let us go down after the Philistines by night, and spoil them until the morning light, and let us not leave a man of them. And they said, Do whatever seems good to you. Then said the serving leader, Let us draw near here to the supreme authority, mighty Creator. Saul asked counsel of the supreme authority, mighty Creator, Will I go down after the Philistines? Will you deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he answered him not that day. Saul said, Draw you near here all the chief of the people group, and know, and see wherein this wrong has been this day. Because as he exists lives which saves Israel, though it be in Jonathan my son, he will surely die. But there was not a man among all the people group that answered him. Then said he to all Israel, Be you on one side and die, and Jonathan my son will be on the other side. And the people group said to Saul, Do what seems good to you. Therefore Saul said to he exists, Supreme authority, mighty Creator of Israel, give a perfect lot. And Saul and Jonathan were taken but the people group escaped. Saul said, "Cast lots between me and Jonathan my son," and Jonathan was taken. Then Saul said to Jonathan, "Tell me what you have done." And Jonathan told him, and said, "I did but taste a little honey with the end of the rod that was in my hand, and look, I must die." Saul answered, "The supreme authority, mighty creator, do so and more also, because you will surely die, Jonathan." The people group said to Saul, "Will Jonathan die, who has worked this great rescue in Israel? Far from it, as he exists lives, there will not one hair of his head fall to the land, because he has worked with the supreme authority, mighty creator, this day." So the people group rescued Jonathan, that he died not. Then Saul went out from following the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. So Saul took the kingdom rule over Israel, and fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab, and against the children of Ammon, and against Edom, and against the king rulers of Zobah, and against the Philistines, and wherever he turned himself he vexed them. He gathered a host, and struck the Amalekites, and delivered Israel out of the hands of them that spoiled them. Sons of Saul were Jonathan, and Ishui, and Malchishua, and the names of his 2 daughters were these: the name of the firstborn Merab, and the name of the younger Michal. The name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam the daughter of Ahimaaz, and the name of the captain of his host was Abner the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner the father of Abner was the son of Abiel. There was sore war against the Philistines all the days of Saul, and when Saul saw any strong man or any valiant man, he took him to himself. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Samuel also said to Saul, "He exists, sent me to anoint you to be king ruler over his people group, over Israel. Now therefore listen you to the voice of the words of He exists. Thus says He exists of armies, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the travel path, when he came up from Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek, and to utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and donkey." Saul gathered the people group together, and numbered them, in telling 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. Saul came to a city of Amalek, and laid wait in the valley. Saul said to the Kenites, "Go, depart, get you down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them, because you showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt." So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. Saul struck the Amalekites from Havilah until you come to Shur, that is over against Egypt. He took Agag, the king ruler of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people group with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people group spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly. Then came the word of He exists to Samuel, saying, "It repents me that I have set up Saul to be king ruler, because he has turned back from following me, and has not performed my commandments." And it grieved Samuel, and he cried to He exists all night. When Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, "Saul came to Carmel, and look, he set him up a place, and is gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal." Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, "Blessed be you if He exists. I have performed the commandment of He exists." Samuel said, "What means then this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the oxen, which I hear?" Saul said, "They have brought them from the Amalekites, because the people group spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice to He exists, your supreme authority, mighty creator, and the rest we have utterly destroyed." Then Samuel said to Saul, "Stay, and I will tell you what He exists has said to me this night." And he said to him, "Say on." Samuel said, "When you were little in your own sight, were you not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And He exists anointed you king ruler over Israel. He exists sent you on a journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the wrongdoers, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Therefore then did you not listen to the voice of He exists, but did fly upon the spoil, and did evil in the sight of He exists." Saul said to Samuel, "Yes, I have listened to the voice of He exists, and have gone the travel path which He exists sent me, and have brought Agag the king ruler of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites." But the people group took of the spoiled sheep and oxen the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed to sacrifice to He exists, your supreme authority, mighty creator, in Gilgal. Samuel said, "As He exists, as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in listening to the voice of he exists. Look, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. Because rebellion is as the wrong of divination, and stubbornness is as wrongdoing and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of he exists, he has also rejected you from being king ruler. Saul said to Samuel, I have did wrong, because I have transgressed the commandment of he exists and your words, because I feared the people group and listened to their voice. Now therefore I pray you pardon my wrong and turn again with me, that I may bow down he exists. Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, because you have rejected the word of he exists, and he exists has rejected you from being king ruler over Israel. As Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle and it tore. Samuel said to him, he exists has torn the kingdom rule of Israel from you this day, and has given it to a neighbor of yours that is better than you. Also the strength of Israel will not lie nor repent, because he is not a man that he should repent. Then he said, I have did wrong, yet honor me now I pray you before the elders of my people group, and before Israel, and turn again with me, that I may bow down he exists, your supreme authority, mighty creator. So Samuel turned again after Saul, and Saul bowed down he exists. Then said Samuel, bring you here to me Agag, the king ruler of the Amalekites. And Agag came to him delicately, and Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. Samuel said, as your sword has made women childless, so will your mother be childless among women. And Samuel cut Agag in pieces before he exists in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house to Gibeah of Saul. Samuel came no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless Samuel mourned for Saul, and he exists repented that he had made Saul king ruler over Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 16. He exists said to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go, I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, because I have provided me a king ruler among his sons. Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And he exists said, take a heifer with you and say, I am come to sacrifice to he exists. Call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you will do, and you will anoint to me him whom I name to you. Samuel did that which he exists spoke, and came to Bethlehem, and the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, come you peaceably. He said, peaceably I am come to sacrifice to he exists. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice. It happened, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, surely he exists anointed is before him. But he exists said to Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. Because he exists sees not as man sees, because man looks on the outward appearance, but he exists looks on the inner thinking center. Then Jesse called Abinadab, and made him pass before Samuel, and he said, neither has he exists chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither has he exists chosen this. Again Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel, and Samuel said to Jesse, he exists has not chosen these. Samuel said to Jesse, are here all your children? And he said, there remains yet the youngest, and look, he keeps the sheep. And Samuel said to Jesse, send and fetch him, because we will not sit down till he come here. He sent and brought him, and now he was ruddy and with beautiful eyes and goodly to look to. And he exists said, arise, anoint him, because this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and the creative breath of he exists came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the creative breath of he exists departed from Saul, and an evil creative breath from he exists troubled him. Saul's servant workers said to him, look, now an evil creative breath from the supreme authority, mighty creator, troubles you. Let our master authority now command your servant workers, which are before you, to seek out a man who is a skillful player on a harp. And it will come to pass, when the evil creative breath from the supreme authority, mighty creator, is upon you, that he will play with his hand, and you will be well. Saul said to his servant workers, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servant workers and said, Look, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, that is skillful in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and he that exists is with him. Therefore Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, Send me David your son, which is with the sheep. Jesse took a donkey laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son to Saul. David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor-bearer. Saul said to Jesse, saying, Let David, I pray you, stand before me, because he has found favor in my sight. It happened when the evil creative breath from the supreme authority mighty creator was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played with his hand, so Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil creative breath departed from him. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shachah, which belongs to Judah, and pitched between Shachah and Azekah in Ephes-dammim. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. The Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. There went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a helmet of bronze upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had greaves of bronze upon his legs, and a target of bronze between his shoulders. The staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. He stood and cried to the armies of Israel, and said to them, Why are you come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and you servant workers? To Saul choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then will we be your servant workers. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then will you be our servant workers and serve us. The Philistine said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse. And he had 8 sons, and the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. The 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. The Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. Jesse said to David his son, Take now for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to your brothers. Carry these 10 cheeses to the captain of their 1,000, and look how your brothers fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul, and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with the keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him, and he came to the trenches. The host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brothers. As he talked with them, look, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath, by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spoke according to the same words. And David heard them. All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. The men of Israel said, Have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it will be that the man who kills him, the king ruler, will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. David spoke to the men that stood by him, saying, What will be done to the man that kills this Philistine, and takes away the reproach from Israel? Because who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living supreme authority, mighty creator? The people group answered him after this manner, saying, So will it be done to the man that kills him. Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why came you down here, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the naughtiness of your inner thinking center. because you are come down that you might see the battle. David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? He turned from him toward another and spoke after the same manner, and the people group answered him again after the former manner. When the words were heard which David spoke, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, Let no man's inner thinking center fail. Because of him your servant worker will go and fight with this Philistine. Saul said to David, You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, because you are but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. David said to Saul, Your servant worker kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. I went out after him, and struck him, and delivered it out of his mouth, and when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and struck him, and killed him. Your servant worker killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living supreme authority, mighty creator. David said, Moreover he exists, that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Go, and he exists be with you. Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of bronze upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. David girded his sword upon his armor, and he tried to go, because he had not proved it. And David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, because I have not proved them. And David put them off him. He took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. The Philistine came on and drew near to David, and the man that bore the shield went before him. When the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, because he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. The Philistine said to David, Am I a dog, that you come to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his supreme authorities. The Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to you in the name of He exists of armies, the supreme authority, mighty creator of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day will He exists deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day to the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the land, that all the land may know that there is a supreme authority, mighty creator in Israel. All this assembly will know that He exists, saves not with sword and spear, because the battle is He exists, and He will give you into our hands. It happened when the Philistine arose and came, and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, and took there a stone, and flung it, and struck the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the land. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and struck the Philistine, and killed him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran, and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and killed him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. The men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted, and pursued the Philistines, until you come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron, and the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the travel path to Sharim, even to Gath and to Ekron. The children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. When Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, Is your life breath lives, O king ruler? I cannot tell. The king ruler said, Inquire you whose son the stripling is. As David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him, and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. Saul said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant worker Jesse the Bethlehemite. 1 Samuel chapter 18. It happened when he had made an end of speaking to Saul, that the life breath of Jonathan was knit with the life breath of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own life breath. Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a binding agreement, because he loved him as his own life breath. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his belt. David went out wherever Saul sent him and behaved himself wisely, and Saul set him over the men of war. And he was accepted in the sight of all the people group, and also in the sight of Saul's servant workers. It happened, as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all cities of Israel singing and dancing to meet King ruler Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. The women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul has struck his thousands and David his 10,000s. Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him, and he said, They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands, and what can ye have more? But the kingdom ruled. Saul eyed David from that day and forward. It happened on the next day, that the evil creative breath from the supreme authority mighty creator came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. Saul cast the javelin, because he said, I will strike David even to the wall with it, and David avoided out of his presence twice. Saul was afraid of David, because he exists was with him, and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people group. David behaved himself wisely in all his travel paths, and he exists was with him. Therefore when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. Saul said to David, Look, my elder daughter Merab will I give you to wife, only be you valiant for me, and fight he exists battles. Because Saul said, Let not my hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. David said to Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king ruler? It happened at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel the Mahalathite to wife. Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Therefore Saul said to David, You will this day be my son-in-law, and the one of the two. Saul commanded his servant workers, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Look, the king ruler has delight in you, and all his servant workers love you. Now therefore be the king ruler's son-in-law. Saul's servant workers spoke those words in the ears of David. And David said, Seems it to you a light thing to be a king ruler's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man, and lightly esteemed? The servant workers of Saul told him, saying, On this manner spoke David. Saul said, Thus will you say to David, The king ruler desires not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king ruler's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. When his servant workers told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king ruler's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. Therefore David arose, and went he and his men, and killed of the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave them in full tale to the king ruler, that he might be the king ruler's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal his daughter to wife. Saul saw and knew that he exists was with David, and that Michal Saul's daughter loved him. Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it happened after they went forth that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servant workers of Saul, so that his name was much set by. 1 Samuel chapter 19. Saul spoke to Jonathan his son and to all his servant workers that they should kill David. But Jonathan Saul's son delighted much in David, and Jonathan told David, saying, Saul my father seeks to kill you now, therefore I pray you take heed to yourself until the morning, and abide in a secret place and hide yourself. I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will commune with my father of you, and what I see that I will tell you. Jonathan spoke good of David to Saul his father, and said to him, Let not the king ruler wrong against his servant worker against David, because he has not did wrong against you, and because his works have been very good toward you, because he put his life breath in his hand and struck the Philistine, and he exists, worked a great rescue for all Israel. You saw it, and did rejoice. Therefore then will you wrong against innocent blood to kill David without a cause. Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan, and Saul swore, as he exists lives, he will not be slain. Jonathan called David, and Jonathan showed him all those things, and Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as in times past. There was war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines, and struck them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. The evil creative breath from he exists was upon Saul as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand, and David played with his hand. Saul sought to strike David even to the wall with the javelin, but he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he struck the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. Saul also sent messengers to David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning, and Michal David's wife told him, saying, If you save not your life breath, tonight tomorrow you will be slain. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. Michal took an image and laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster, and covered it with a cloth. When Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, He is sick. Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him. When the messengers were come, and look, there was an image in the bed with a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. Saul said to Michal, Why have you deceived me so, and sent away my enemy, that he is escaped? And Michal answered Saul, He said to me, Let me go, why should I kill you? So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel to Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth. It was told Saul, saying, Look, David is at Naioth in Ramah. Saul sent messengers to take David, and when they saw the company of the speakers prophesying, and Samuel standing as appointed over them, the creative breath of the supreme authority mighty creator was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. When it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. Then went he also to Ramah, and came to a great well that is in Setu, and he asked and said, Where are Samuel and David? And one said, Look, they be at Naioth and Ramah. He went there to Naioth and Ramah, and the creative breath of the supreme authority mighty creator was upon him also. And he went on and prophesied until he came to Naioth and Ramah. He stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day, and all that night. Therefore they say, Is Saul also among the speakers? 1 Samuel chapter 20. David fled from Naioth and Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, What have I done? What is my wrongdoing, and what is my wrong before your father, that he seeks my life breath? He said to him, Far from it, you will not die. Look, my father will do nothing either great or small, but that he will show it me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. David swore moreover and said, Your father certainly knows that I have found favor in your eyes. And he says, Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly, as he exists lives, and as your life breath lives, there is but a step between me and death. Then said Jonathan to David, Whatever your life breath desires, I will even do it for you. David said to Jonathan, Look, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king ruler at meat, but let me go, that I may hide myself in the field to the third day at evening. If your father at all miss me, then say, David earnestly asked leave of me, that he might run to Bethlehem his city, because there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family. If he say thus, It is well, your servant worker will have peace. But if he be very angry, then be sure that evil is determined by him. Therefore you will deal kindly with your servant worker, because you have brought your servant worker into a binding agreement of he exists with you notwithstanding. If there be in me wrongdoing, slay me yourself, because why should you bring me to your father? Jonathan said, Far be it from you, because if I knew certainly that evil were determined by my father to come upon you, then would not I tell you. Then said David to Jonathan, Who will tell me, or what if your father answer you roughly? Jonathan said to David, Come and let us go out into the field. And they went out both of them into the field. Jonathan said to David, O he exists, supreme authority, mighty creator of Israel, when I have sounded my father about tomorrow any time or the third day, and look, if there be good toward David, and I then send not to you and show it you, he exists, do so and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do you evil, then I will show it you and send you away, that you may go in peace, and he exists be with you as he has been with my father. You will not only, while yet I live, show me the trust loyalty of he exists, that I die not, but also you will not cut off your trust loyalty from my house forever. Know not, when he exists has cut off the enemies of David every one from the face of the land. So Jonathan made a binding agreement with the house of David, saying, Let he exists even require it at the hand of David's enemies. Jonathan caused David to swear again because he loved him as he loved his own life breath. Then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed, because your seat will be empty. When you have stayed 3 days, then you will go down quickly, and come to the place where you hid yourself, when the business was in hand, and will remain by the stone Ezel. I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. Look, I will send a lad, saying, go find out the arrows. If I expressly say to the lad, look, the arrows are on this side, if you take them, then come you, because there is peace to you, and no hurt. As he exists lives. But if I say thus to the young man, look, the arrows are beyond you, go your travel path, because he exists has sent you away. As touching the matter which you and I have spoken of, look, he exists, be between you and me forever. So David hid himself in the field. And when the new moon was come, the king ruler sat him down to eat meat. The king ruler sat upon his seat, as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless Saul spoke not anything that day, because he thought something has befallen him. He is not clean, surely he is not clean. It happened on the next day, which was the 2nd day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said to Jonathan his son, therefore comes not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today. Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. He said, let me go, I pray you, because our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother he has commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in your eyes, let me get away, I pray you, and see my brothers there, for he comes not to the king ruler's table. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do not I know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own confusion, and to the confusion of your mother's nakedness? Because as long as the son of Jesse lies upon the land, you will not be established, nor your kingdom rule there. For now send and fetch him to me, because he will surely die. Jonathan answered Saul his father, and said to him, therefore will he be slain, what has he done? Saul cast a javelin at him to strike him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and did eat no meat the 2nd day of the month, because he was grieved for David, because his father had done him shame. It happened in the morning that Jonathan went out into the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad with him. He said to his lad, run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. When the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad, and said, is not the arrow beyond you? Jonathan cried after the lad, make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows, and came to his master Authority. But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and David knew the matter. Jonathan gave his artillery to his lad, and said to him, go carry them to the city. As soon as the lad was gone, David arose out of a place toward the south, and fell on his face to the land, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept one with another, until David exceeded. Jonathan said to David, go in peace, forasmuch as we have sworn both of us in the name of he exists, saying, he exists, be between me and you, and between my seed and your seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. 1 Samuel chapter 21. Then came David to Nob to Ahimelech the serving leader, and Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David, and said to him, why are you alone, and no man with you? David said to Ahimelech the serving leader, the king ruler has commanded me a business, and has said to me, let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send you, and what I have commanded you, and I have appointed my servant workers to such and such a place. Now therefore what is under your hand, give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present. The serving leader answered David and said, there is no common bread under my hand, but there is set apart bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. David answered the serving leader, and said to him, of a truth women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are set apart, and the bread is in a manner common, yes, though it was sanctified this day in the vessel. So the serving leader gave him set apart bread, because there was no bread there, but the showbread that was taken from before he exists, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of the servant workers of Saul was there, that day detained before he exists, and his name was Doeg Edomite, the chiefest of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul. David said to Ahimelech, Is there not here under your hand spear or sword? Because I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me. Because the king-ruler's business required haste. The serving leader said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine whom you struck in the valley of Elah, look, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take it, because there is no other save that here. And David said, There is none like that, give it me. David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish the king-ruler of Gath. The servant workers of Achish said to him, Is not this David the king-ruler of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul has struck his thousands, and David his 10,000s? David laid up these words in his inner thinking center, and was very much afraid of Achish the king-ruler of Gath. He changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his saliva fall down upon his beard. Then said Achish to his servant workers, Look, you see the man is mad, therefore then have you brought him to me. Have I need of mad men, that you have brought this fellow to play the mad man in my presence? Will this fellow come into my house? 1 Samuel chapter 22. David therefore departed there, and escaped to the cave Adullam, and when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. Everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented gathered themselves to him. And he became a captain over them, and there were with him about 400 men. David went from there to Mizpeh of Moab, and he said to the king-ruler of Moab, Let my father and my mother, I pray you, come forth, and be with you till I know what the supreme authority, mighty creator, will do for me. He brought them before the king-ruler of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the stronghold. The speaker Gad said to David, Abide not in the stronghold, depart, and get you into the land of Judah. Then David departed, and came into the forest of Hareth. When Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Jivah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servant workers were standing about him. Saul said to his servant workers that stood about him, Hear now, you Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me, and there is none that shows me that my son has made a binding agreement with the son of Jesse, and there is none of you that is sorry for me, or shows to me that my son has stirred up my servant worker against me to lie in wait, as at this day. Then answered Doeg the Edomite, which was set over the servant workers of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob to Ahimelech the son of Ahitub. He inquired if he exists for him, and gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Then the king-ruler sent to call Ahimelech the serving leader the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house the serving leaders that were in Nob, and they came all of them to the king-ruler. Saul said, Hear now, you son of Ahitub, and he answered, Here I am, my master authority. Saul said to him, Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that you have given him bread and a sword, and have inquired of the supreme authority, mighty creator, for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait, as at this day? Then Ahimelech answered the king-ruler, and said, Who is so faithful among all your servant workers as David, which is the king-ruler's son-in-law, and goes at your bidding, and is honorable in your house? Did I then begin to inquire of the supreme authority, mighty creator, for him? Far from me. Let not the king-ruler impute anything to his servant worker, nor to all the house of my father, because your servant worker knew nothing of all this, less or more. The king-ruler said, You will surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house. The king-ruler said to the footmen that stood about him, Turn and kill the serving leaders if he exists, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servant workers of the king-ruler would not put forth their hand to fall upon the serving leaders if he exists. The king-ruler said to Doeg, Turn you and fall upon the serving leaders. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the serving leaders, and killed on that day 85 persons that wore a linen ephod. Now the city of the serving leaders struck he with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and sucklings, and oxen and donkeys and sheep, with the edge of the sword. One of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain who exists serving leaders. David said to Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house. Abide you with me, fear not, because he that seeks my life breath seeks your life breath, but with me ye will be in safeguard. 1 Samuel chapter 23. Then they told David, saying, Look, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they rob the threshing floors. Therefore David inquired if he exists, saying, Will I go and strike these Philistines? And he exists, said to David, Go and strike the Philistines, and save Keilah. David's men said to him, Look, we be afraid here in Judah, how much more then if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Then David inquired if he exists yet again, and he exists, answered him, and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, because I will deliver the Philistines into your hand. So David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines, and brought away their cattle, and struck them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. It happened, when Abiathar the son of Ahimelech fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. It was told Saul that David was come to Keilah, and Saul said, The supreme authority, mighty Creator, has delivered him into my hand, because he is shut in by entering into a town that has gates and bars. Saul called all the people grouped together to war to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him, and he said to Abiathar the serving leader, Bring here the ephod. Then said David, O he exists, supreme authority, mighty Creator of Israel, your servant worker has certainly heard that Saul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant worker has heard? O he exists, supreme authority, mighty Creator of Israel, I pray you tell your servant worker. And he exists, said he will come down. Then said David, Will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And he exists, said they will deliver you up. Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah, and went wherever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he stopped going forth. David abode in the wilderness and strongholds, and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph, and Saul sought him every day. But the supreme authority, mighty Creator, delivered him not into his hand. David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life breath, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood. Jonathan Saul's son arose and went to David into the wood, and strengthened his hand in the supreme authority, mighty Creator. He said to him, Fear not, because the hand of Saul my father will not find you, and you will be king ruler over Israel, and I will be next to you, and that also Saul my father knows. They two made a binding agreement before he exists, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. Then came up the Ziphites to Saul, to Jivah, saying, Does not David hide himself with us in strongholds in the wood in the hill of Hachilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? Now therefore, O king ruler, come down according to all the desire of your life breath to come down, and our part will be to deliver him into the king ruler's hand. Saul said, Blessed be you if he exists, because you have compassion on me. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know, and see his place where his haunt is, and who has seen him there, because it is told me that he deals very subtly. See therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places, where he hides himself, and come you again to me with a certainty. And I will go with you, and it will come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. They arose and went to Ziph before Saul, but David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon in the plain on the south of Jeshimon. Saul also and his men went to seek him, and they told David. Therefore he came down into a rock, and abode in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon, Saul went on this side of the mountain, and David and his men on that side of the mountain. And David made haste to get away for fear of Saul, because Saul and his men compassed David and his men round about to take them. But there came a messenger to Saul, saying, Hurry you and come, because the Philistines have invaded the land. Therefore Saul returned from pursuing after David, and went against the Philistines. Therefore they call that place Selahammalekoth. David went up from there and dwelt in strongholds at En-gedi. 1 Samuel chapter 24. It happened when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Look, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. He came to the sheep cotes by the travel path, where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. The men of David said to him, Look, the day of which he exists said to you, Look, I will deliver your enemy into your hand, that you may do to him as it will seem good to you. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe secretly. It happened afterward that David's inner thinking center struck him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt. He said to his men, He exists, forbid that I should do this thing to my master authority. He exists, anointed to stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he exists, anointed. So David restrained his servant workers with these words, and allowed them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his travel path. David also arose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried after Saul, saying, My master authority, the king ruler. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the land, and bowed himself. David said to Saul, Therefore listen you to men's words, saying, Look, David seeks your hurt. Look, this day your eyes have seen how that he exists, had delivered you today into my hand in the cave, and some told me to kill you. But my eye spared you, and I said, I will not put forth my hand against my master authority, because he exists, anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of your robe in my hand, because in that I cut off the skirt of your robe, and killed you, not know you, and see that there is neither evil nor rebellious wrong in my hand, and I have not did wrong against you, yet you hunt my life breath to take it. He exists, judge between me and you, and he exists, avenge me of you, but my hand will not be upon you. As says the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand will not be upon you. After whom is the king ruler of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea. He exists, therefore be judge, and judge between me and you, and see, and plead my cause, and deliver me out of your hand. It happened, when David had made an end of speaking these words to Saul, that Saul said, Is this your voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, You are more right than I, because you have rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded you evil. You have showed this day how that you have dealt well with me, because when he exists had delivered me into your hand, you killed me not. Because if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Therefore he exists, reward you good for that you have done to me this day. Now look, I know well that you will surely be king ruler, and that the kingdom rule of Israel will be established in your hand. Swear now therefore to me by he exists, that you will not cut off my seed after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house. David swore to Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men got them up to the stronghold. 1 Samuel chapter 25. Samuel died, and all Israel were gathered together and lamented him, and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. There was a man in Mount whose possessions were in Carmel, and the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. The name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. David sent out 10 young men, and David said to the young men, Get you up to Carmel, and go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. Thus will you say to him that lives in prosperity, Peace be both to you, and peace be to your house, and peace be to all that you have. Now I have heard that you have shearers. Now your shepherds which were with us, we hurt them not, neither was there anything missing to them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will show you. Therefore let the young men find favor in your eyes. Because we come in a good day, give I pray you whatever comes to your hand, to your servant workers, and to your son David. When David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David, and ceased. Nabal answered David's servant workers and said, Who is David, and who is the son of Jesse? There be many servant workers nowadays that break away every man from his master authority. Will I then take my bread, and my water, and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers, and give it to men whom I know not from where they be? So David's young men turned their travel path, and went again, and came and told him all those sayings. David said to his men, Gird you on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 abode by the stuff. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Look, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master authority, and he railed on them. But the men were very good to us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything, as long as we were conversant with them. When we were in the fields, they were a wall to us both by night and day, all the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now therefore know and consider what you will do, because evil is determined against our master authority, and against all his household, because he is such a son of worthlessness that a man cannot speak to him. Then Abigail made haste, and took 200 loaves, and 2 bottles of wine, and 5 sheep ready dressed, and 5 measures of parched grain, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on donkeys. She said to her servant workers, Go on before me, look, I come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal. It was so, as she rode on the donkey, that she came down by the covert of the hill, and look, David and his men came down against her, and she met them. Now David had said, Surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belonged to him, and he has requited me evil for good. So and more also do the supreme authority, mighty creator, to the enemies of David, if I leave of all that pertains to him by the morning light any that urinates against the wall. When Abigail saw David, she hurried, and lighted off the donkey, and fell before David on her face, and bowed herself to the land, fell at his feet, and said, Upon me, my master authority, upon me let this wrongdoing be, and let your handmaid, I pray you, speak in your ears, and hear the words of your handmaid. Let not my master authority, I pray you, regard this man of worthlessness, even Nabal, because as his name is so is he, Nabal is his name, and foolishness is with him. But I your handmaid saw not the young men of my master authority whom you did send. Now therefore my master authority, as he exists, lives, and as your life breath lives, seeing he exists, has withheld you from coming to shed blood, and from avenging yourself with your own hand. Now let your enemies, and they that seek evil to my master authority, be as Nabal. Now this blessing which your handmaid has brought to my master authority, let it even be given to the young men that follow my master authority. I pray you forgive the wrong step of your handmaid, because he exists will certainly make my master authority a sure house, because my master authority fights the battles of he exists, and evil has not been found in you all your days. Yet a man is risen to pursue you and to seek your life breath, but the life breath of my master authority will be bound in the bundle of life with he exists, your supreme authority, mighty creator, and the lives of your enemies them will he sling out as out of the middle of a sling. It will come to pass when he exists will have done to my master authority according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and will have appointed you ruler over Israel, that this will be no grief to you nor offense of inner thinking center to my master authority, either that you have shed blood without cause, or that my master authority has avenged himself. But when he exists will have dealt well with my master authority, then remember your handmaid. David said to Abigail, Blessed be he exists, supreme authority, mighty creator of Israel, which sent you this day to meet me. Blessed be your advice, and blessed be you which have kept me this day from coming to shed blood, and from avenging myself with my own hand, because in very deed as he exists, supreme authority, mighty creator of Israel lives, which has kept me back from hurting you, except you had hurried and come to meet me. Surely there had not been left to Nabal by the morning light any that urinates against the wall. So David received of her hand that which she had brought him, and said to her, Go up in peace to your house. See, I have listened to your voice, and have accepted your person. Abigail came to Nabal, and look, he held a feast in his house like the feast of a king ruler, and Nabal's inner thinking center was merry within him, because he was very drunken. Therefore she told him nothing less or more until the morning light. It happened in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his inner thinking center died within him, and he became as a stone. It happened about 10 days after that he exists struck Nabal that he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be he that exists, that has pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and has kept his servant worker from evil, because he exists has returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head. And David sent and communed with Abigail to take her to him to wife. When the servant workers of David were come to Abigail to Carmel, they spoke to her, saying, David sent us to you to take you to him to wife. She arose and bowed herself on her face to the land, and said, Look, let your handmaid be a servant worker to wash the feet of the servant workers of my master Authority. Abigail hurried, and arose and rode upon a donkey with 5 damsels of hers, that went after her, and she went after the messengers of David, and became his wife. David also took Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they were also both of them his wives. But Saul had given Michal his daughter David's wife to Phalti the son of Laish, which was of Gallim. 1 Samuel chapter 26. The Ziphites came to Saul to Jipah, saying, Does not David hide himself in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Jeshimon? Then Saul arose, and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. Saul pitched in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Jeshimon, by the traveled path. But David abode in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. David therefore sent out spies, and understood that Saul was come in very deed. David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched, and David beheld the place where Saul lay, and Abner the son of Ner the captain of his host. And Saul lay in the trench, and the people were pitched round about him. Then answered David and said to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with you. So David and Abishai came to the people group by night, and look, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the land at his bolster. But Abner and the people group lay round about him. Then said Abishai to David, The supreme authority, mighty Creator, has delivered your enemy into your hand this day. Now therefore let me strike him, I pray you, with the spear, even to the land at once, and I will not strike him the second time. David said to Abishai, Destroy him not, because who can stretch forth his hand against he exists anointed, and be guiltless? David said furthermore, As he exists, lives he exists, will strike him, or his day will come to die, or he will descend into battle and perish. He exists forbid, that I should stretch forth my hand against he exists anointed. But I pray you, take now the spear that is at his bolster, and the cruse of water, and let us go. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they got them away, and no man saw it nor knew it, neither awoke, because they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from he exists was fallen upon them. Then David went over to the other side, and stood on the top of a hill afar off, a great space being between them. David cried to the people group, and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, Answer you not, Abner. Then Abner answered and said, Who are you that cries to the king ruler? David said to Abner, Are not you a valiant man, and who select you in Israel? Therefore then have you not kept your master Authority, the king ruler? Because there came one of the people group in to destroy the king ruler, your master Authority. This thing is not good that you have done. As he exists, lives you are worthy to die, because you have not kept your master Authority. He exists anointed. And now see, where the king ruler's spear is, and the cruse of water that was at his bolster. Saul knew David's voice, and said, Is this your voice, my son David? And David said, It is my voice, my master Authority, O king ruler. He said, Therefore does my master Authority thus pursue after his servant worker, because what have I done, or what evil is in my hand? Now therefore I pray you, let my master Authority, the king ruler, hear the words of his servant worker. If he exists, has stirred you up against me, let him accept an offering. But if they be the children of men, cursed be they before he exists, because they have driven me out this day from abiding in the inheritance of he exists, saying, Go serve other supreme authorities. Now therefore let not my blood fall to the land before the face of he exists, because the king ruler of Israel is come out to seek a flea, as when one does hunt a partridge in the mountains. Then said Saul, I have did wrong. Return my son David, because I will no more do you harm. Because my life breath was precious in your eyes this day, look, I have played the fool and have erred exceedingly. David answered and said, Look, the king ruler's spear, and let one of the young men come over and fetch it. He exists, render to every man his rightness and his faithfulness, because he exists delivered you into my hand today. But I would not stretch forth my hand against he exists anointed. Look, as your life breath was much set by this day in my eyes, so let my life breath be much set by in the eyes of he exists, and let him deliver me out of all tribulation. Then Saul said to David, Blessed be you, my son David, you will both do great things and also will still prevail. So David went on his travel path, and Saul returned to his place. 1 Samuel chapter 27. David said, in his inner thinking center, I will now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines. And Saul will despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel, so will I escape out of his hand. David arose, and he passed over with the 600 men that were with him to Achish the son of Malch, king ruler of Gath. David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, even David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's wife. It was told Saul that David was fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. David said to Achish, If I have now found favor in your eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there, because why should your servant worker dwell in the royal city with you? Then Achish gave him Ziklag that day. Therefore Ziklag pertains to the king rulers of Judah to this day. The time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was a full year and 4 months. David and his men went up and invaded the Geshurites and the Jezreites and the Amalekites, because those nations were of old the inhabitants of the land, as you go to Shur, even to the land of Egypt. David struck the land and left neither man nor woman alive, and took away the sheep and the oxen and the donkeys and the camels and the clothing, and returned and came to Achish. Achish said, Where have you made a road today? And David said, Against the south of Judah, and against the south of the Jerahmeelites, and against the south of the Kenites. David saved neither man nor woman alive to bring tidings to Gath, saying, Lest they should tell on us, saying, So did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwells in the country of the Philistines. Achish believed David, saying, He has made his people group Israel utterly to abhor him, therefore he will be my servant worker forever. 1 Samuel chapter 28. It happened in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Achish said to David, Know you assuredly that you will go out with me to battle, you and your men. David said to Achish, Surely you will know what your servant worker can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore will I make you keeper of my head forever. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar creative breaths and the wizards out of the land. The Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. When Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his inner thinking center greatly trembled. When Saul inquired if he exists, answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by speakers. Then said Saul to his servant workers, Seek me a woman that has a familiar creative breath, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant workers said to him, Look, there is a woman that has a familiar creative breath at a door. Saul disguised himself and put on other clothing, and he went, and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray you divine to me by the familiar creative breath, and bring me him up whom I will name to you. The woman said to him, Look, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off those that have familiar creative breaths, and the wizards out of the land. Therefore then lay you a snare for my life breath, to cause me to die. Saul swore to her by he exists, saying, As he exists lives, there will no punishment happen to you for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom will I bring up to you? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spoke to Saul, saying, Why have you deceived me, because you are Saul? The king ruler said to her, Be not afraid, because what saw you? And the woman said to Saul, I saw supreme authorities ascending out of the land. He said to her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man comes up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the land and bowed himself. Samuel said to Saul, Why have you disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, because the Philistines make war against me, and the supreme authority, mighty creator, is departed from me, and answers me no more, neither by speakers nor by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may make known to me what I will do. Then said Samuel, therefore then do you ask of me, seeing he exists, has departed from you, and has become your enemy. He exists, has done to him as he spoke. By me, because he exists, has torn the kingdom rule out of your hand, and given it to your neighbor, even to David. Because you listened not to the voice of he exists, nor executed his fierce wrath upon Amalek, therefore has he exists done this thing to you this day. Moreover, he exists will also deliver Israel with you into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow will you and your sons be with me. He exists also will deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. Then Saul fell straightway all along on the land, and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel, and there was no strength in him, because he had eaten no bread all the day nor all the night. The woman came to Saul and saw that he was sore troubled, and said to him, Look, your handmaid has listened to your voice, and I have put my life breath in my hand, and have listened to your words, which you spoke to me. Now therefore I pray you listen also to the voice of your handmaid, and let me set a morsel of bread before you, and eat, that you may have strength when you go on your travel path. But he refused and said, I will not eat. But his servant workers together with the woman compelled him, and he listened to their voice. So he arose from the land and sat upon the bed. The woman had a fat calf in the house, and she hurried and killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and did bake unleavened bread thereof. She brought it before Saul and before his servant workers, and they did eat. Then they rose up and went away that night. 1 Samuel chapter 29. Now the Philistines gathered together all their armies to Aphek, and the Israelites pitched by a fountain which is in Jezreel. The lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, but David and his men passed on in the rear with Achish. Then said the princes of the Philistines, What do these Hebrews here? And Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, Is not this David the servant worker of Saul the king ruler of Israel, which has been with me these days or these years, and I have found no fault in him since he fell to me to this day? The princes of the Philistines were angry with him, and the princes of the Philistines said to him, Make this fellow return, that he may go again to his place, which you have appointed him, and let him not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he be an adversary to us. Because with what should he reconcile himself to his master authority, should it not be with the heads of these men? Is not this David of whom they sang one to another in dances, saying, Saul struck his thousands, and David his 10,000s? Then Achish called David and said to him, Surely, as he exists lives, you have been upright, and your going out and your coming in with me in the host is good in my sight. Because I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me to this day, nevertheless the rulers favor you not. Therefore now return and go in peace, that you displease not the lords of the Philistines. David said to Achish, But what have I done, and what have you found in your servant worker, so long as I have been with you to this day, that I may not go fight against the enemies of my master authority, the king ruler? Achish answered and said to David, I know that you are good in my sight, as in messenger of the supreme authority, mighty creator, notwithstanding the princes of the Philistines have said he will not go up with us to the battle. Therefore now rise up early in the morning with your master authority's servant workers that are come with you, and as soon as you be up early in the morning, and have light, depart. So David and his men rose up early to depart in the morning, to return into the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines went up to Jezreel. 1 Samuel chapter 30. It happened when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag, and struck Ziklag, and burned it with fire, had taken the women captives that were therein. They killed not any, either great or small, but carried them away, and went on their travel path. So David and his men came to the city, and look, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. Then David and the people group that were with him lifted up their voice, and wept until they had no more power to weep. David's 2 wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. David was greatly distressed because the people group spoke of stoning him, because the life breath of all the people group was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in he exists, his supreme authority, mighty creator. David said to Abiathar the serving leader, Ahimelech's son, I pray you bring me here the ephod. And Abiathar brought there the ephod to David. David inquired that he exists, saying, Will I pursue after this troop? Will I overtake them? And he answered him, Pursue, because you will surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, because 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. They found an Egyptian in the field, and brought him to David, and gave him bread, and he did eat, and they made him drink water. They gave him a piece of a cake of figs, and 2 clusters of raisins, and when he had eaten, his creative breath came again to him, because he had eaten no bread nor drunk any water 3 days and 3 nights. David said to him, To whom belong you, and from where are you? And he said, I am a young man of Egypt, servant worker to an Amalekite, and my master Authority left me, because 3 days ago I fell sick. We made an invasion upon the south of the Cherethites, and upon the coast, which belongs to Judah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. David said to him, Can you bring me down to this company? And he said, Swear to me by the supreme authority, mighty Creator, that you will neither kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my master Authority, and I will bring you down to this company. When he had brought him down, look, they were spread abroad upon all the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines, and out of the land of Judah. David struck them from the twilight even to the evening of the next day, and there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men, which rode upon camels and fled. David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. There was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. David took all the flocks and the herds which they drove before those other cattle, and said, This is David's spoil. David came to the 200 men, which were so faint that they could not follow David, whom they had made also to abide at the brook Besor. And they went forth to meet David, and to meet the people group that were with him. And when David came near to the people group, he saluted them. Then answered all the wicked men and men of worthlessness of those that went with David, and said, Because they went not with us, we will not give them of the spoil that we have recovered, save to every man his wife and his children, that they may lead them away and depart. Then said David, You will not do so, my brothers, with that which you exists has given us, who has preserved us, and delivered the company that came against us into our hand, because who will listen to you in this matter? But as his part is that goes down to the battle, so will his part be that tarries. By the stuff they will part alike. It was so from that day forward that he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. When David came to Ziklag, he sent of the spoil to the elders of Judah, even to his friends, saying, Look, a present for you of the spoil of the enemies of he exists, to them which were in Bethel, and to them which were in South Ramoth, and to them which were in Jadir, to them which were in Aroer, and to them which were in Siphamoth, and to them which were in Eshemoa, to them which were in Rachel, and to them which were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, and to them which were in the cities of the Kenites, to them which were in Hormah, and to them which were in Chorashan, and to them which were in Athach, to them which were in Hebron, and to all the places where David himself and his men were accustomed to haunt. (1 Samuel chapter 31). Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines, and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. The Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan and Abinadab and Malchishua, Saul's sons. The battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then said Saul to his armor-bearer, Draw your sword, and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. But his armor-bearer would not, because he was sore afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword, and died with him. So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer, and all his men that same day together. When the men of Israel that were on the other side of the valley, and they that were on the other side Jordan, saw that the men of Israel fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. It happened on the next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen in Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head, and stripped off his armor, and sent into the land of the Philistines round about to publish it in the house of their idols. And among the people group, they put his armor in the house of Asheroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. When the inhabitants of Jabes-Gilead heard of that which the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and went all night, and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan, and came to Jabesh and burned them there. They took their bones and buried them under a tree at Jabesh, and fasted 7 days.